navigate between electronic documents caused many to spend hours surfing in the early days of the web. Today, we take links for granted. However, there's still an important skill to learn in HTML5. We'll be looking at several types of links in this chapter. Internal links will allow us to move between documents within our site. External links will allow us to move to resources outside of our site's domain. And bookmarks or anchors allow us to navigate long documents easily. Before we get started, a little trivia. You can use this to impress your friends. The first implementation of hyperlinks came from Apple's HyperCard in the mid-1980s. HyperCard allowed you to organize information on virtual cards, which used hyperlinks to allow users to move between cards. The HyperCard application ran on some of the earliest Macs and was one of the killer apps that led to the adoption of the Mac platform. So now, on to creating your own links, not in HyperCard, but in HTML5. Have fun with this chapter.
Subscribe to my channel.
.html file, and that's the one you're looking at inside of brackets. And I've got a file called oldemail.html, and then I've got another folder, and inside the poem folder is a file called poem.html. So from internal links, let's say we wanted to make a hyperlink to the page oldemail.html. Now, by the way, the page oldemail.html just has an embedded YouTube video on it. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the text that the user will click in order to activate the link. So let's say, see a video about email from 1984. And let's say the text that we wanted the user to click was right here, about email from 1984. And we don't want see a video or the period to be part of the link. So the next step to creating an internal link is I'm going to put an anchor tag at the beginning of where the user will click and the end of where the user will click. So now I've got the actual anchor that the user will click in order to activate the link. Now I need to put the href attribute, which will indicate where the link will be pointed. In this case, it'll be pointed to the page old_email.html. This is another place where the editor brackets will give you some help. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this page inside of our live test environment. And there you can see that see a video about email from 1984 is underlined in blue, indicating that that's a link, and the period is not part of the link, and neither see a video. So that worked fine. When we click it, it goes to that page, old email, and there is our embedded YouTube video that we put there. Now, on the old email page, there's no way to get back. All the user can do is watch the video. They have to click the back button to get back from that page. That's actually considered really poor style. You shouldn't have what are called dead ends. Dead ends are pages that don't link to anywhere and force the user to use the back button in order to get off of the page. So let's take a look at the old email page, and let's add a link back to internal_links.html. So we can put this over here for now. So I'm going to put this just below the iframe, which contains the video, and you'll learn how to do iframes later on in the course. Let's say go back is the link. So step one is we put in our anchor tag. And we probably should put that inside a p tag as well, right? We shouldn't just have that floating out there like that. So now we've got our paragraph with go back, and you can see already it's indicated here inside of our live preview. So now we need to add the href attribute, and finally the link to where it's going, in this case, internal links.html. So now from here, we can go back to the original page. So we created a link with the anchor tag, href equals, and then the file name of the page we want to load. Now, if we look again at internal links right here, We also are going to create a link to the page poem. But notice the page poem is different in that the link has a folder and then the actual poem.html. So we need to go from internal links.html, this page, and to grab the link inside the poem folder. So we're going to create what's called a path. So let's say our text is "See a Funny Poem," and let's surround all this with some p tags here so our HTML is better formed. And we'll make funny poem the text that the user selects in order to activate the link. So if that's the text, again, we use our anchor tags around the text the user will click. And once we've done that, we can add our href attribute. And then now we have to go inside the poem folder. So the way this works is a little bit different. So we're going to type the name of the folder slash and then the name of the file. So this is called a path. And we've got the path through the folder into poem.html. So we're going to actually load the entire page. All right. So I've saved hitting Command S, and now you can see it here in the live preview. So let's see if that worked. If it did, we should see a funny poem. And there we go. To keep your marriage brimming with love in the loving cup. Whenever you're wrong, admit it. Whenever you're right, shut up. Okay. Let's go to that page. Let's improve that page a little bit. So we'll go into the poem folder and let's add some break tags here. Make that appear a little bit more readable. Just take a second. Easy enough. Oh, that's much better. So now, of course, again, we have a dead end. So let's put another link back to links. And let's say links is the text that's going to be our anchor. So we have our anchor tag and now the href attribute. And now let's think about this for a minute because now this page is in here. So we actually need to go up and outside the folder to hit internal links.html, which is the page we want to load with the link. So we can use the help provided by the environment here, except it's not showing anything but poem.html. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit // and that's going to go up a level, and there's internal links.html. So if we need to go up a level in the folder, // will take us up a level. So if we're here, we'll go up a level. We're now in the 3.02 folder, and there's internal links.html. So now we should have a complete system. If we click back to links here, we go back to the links page. We can go back to the video, and we can see the funny poem and go back from there. So we've talked about internal links. We've talked about internal links into a folder, and we've talked about internal links from a folder into a level above the folder in your file directory. Have you ever been looking for a single piece of information on a long web page? Well, if you have, you probably want to pay attention to this lecture. In this lecture, we're going to take a look at a concept known as name anchors. Sometimes these are called bookmarks. And what they allow you to do on a page is navigate through the content on a single page. They act a lot like links. So I've already created this rather long document, and I've used Latin text to fill in the content because it doesn't really matter what the content is. But let's take a look at how the document is actually structured. We'll turn on the live preview here, and let's see if we can get this to load up. There we go. And what you can see here is we have a rather long document with a lot of content, but you will also notice that the document is divided up into sections: the early years, the beginning of a career, and a section which is called He Becomes a Teacher. Now, obviously, in a small web browser, this is going to be a pain to navigate. So, what we're going to do is we're going to provide named anchors that will allow us to navigate more easily through the document. The first thing we want to do is figure out exactly where the named anchors will go. What are the points at which the user is going to want to navigate to in the document? I think the headings make pretty good points in this document to where the user will want to navigate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put named anchors in all of those places. This is what a named anchor looks like. And we'll do this one right at the top. A name equals, and then we're going to give that name some particular value so we can keep track of it. So let's name this first one top because it's at the top of the document. And you can see I'm using anchor tags here with the name attribute and then the value in quotes. And then we close the anchor right away. So it looks like this. Let's go ahead and do another one down where our next section starts. And let's call this career. So again, A, name, career. And we close it like that. We don't want anything actually inside of the anchor tag because it'll make a link. Now you might be noticing here, there's actually no visual difference to the page when we put in the named anchor. It looks exactly the same. Let's call this one teacher. So this is the first part of creating named anchors or bookmarks so we can easily navigate the page. Now, the next part is where we create the links that the user will click on to move through the page. So let's put them above our named anchors. Now, we don't need one for top because up here we're already at the top. But remember, we have the two that are career and teacher. So let's go ahead and do the beginning of a career. And that'll be the text the user will click to activate the link. And the second one will be he becomes a teacher. So we'll use the actual content inside the H2 tags. So we're going to create this link just like you've created other links before. We're going to put the text that the user will click inside of an anchor tag. And we're even going to use the href attribute. So let's do href equals, and then we use a pound and career, just like that. Href equals pound sign teacher. So that's essentially saying we're going to navigate to the named anchor career. We're going to navigate to the named anchor teacher. Now, oftentimes at the bottom of the document, instead of making the user scroll all the way back up like this, let's go ahead and put a third named anchor. And you know what? Let's go ahead and break between those for convenience. So we're going to go all the way down here to the very bottom, and I'm going to create one for the top, A, and we'll make the text just say top. So that's the text the user will select. href pound top. Perfect. So let's check, is it down there? It sure is. So let's test that one first, right? So we're going to click on the top named anchor, and we go to the top of the page. The beginning of a career. We go to the beginning of a career. He becomes a teacher. He becomes a teacher. So it looks like we've been able to create named anchors that'll make it much easier to move through a document. So the way we did that was, first off, we created our named anchors, just like this, with the name attribute inside of an anchor tag to create the points the user would navigate to. Then we created more traditional links with the text the user would select in order to navigate, and we used the href attribute and pound and the name of the anchor to move to the actual named anchor point. Great for navigating large documents. So we're getting towards the end of chapter 3, and it's almost time for you to get some practice in. So I'd encourage you to keep going and try the lab coming up next. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll see you there. It's that time again. Yep, it's time for a lab exercise. In the Section 3 lab, we're going to give you some practice with hyperlinks. We're going to have you make links to a number of popular sites for practice. You can also add your own sites to the set of links if you'd like. Practicing hyperlinks will make it easy to create them when you're doing production level code. Don't forget the Challenge Yourself section at the very end of this lab, which will enable you to take your knowledge just a little bit further. I hope you enjoy this lab where you get to practice with hyperlinks.